What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and today I am back with another preview, and it's PFL 3 2024, the third regular season event, the last one before we go on a little bit of a break before we come back with three more events in the playoffs and the finale. And this, I think this is probably the standout event of the three so far. We have the welterweights and the featherweights on deck. I'll run you through all the fighters in those divisions in a second. But what I love about this card, and I, you know, maybe I didn't mention it enough on the previous previews or reviews, and I have in bits and pieces, but the uniqueness of the matchups in this is what makes this season better than previous seasons, I think. Because, look, we had a lot of similar matchups because of lads doing well. So, say the likes of Chris Wade and Bubba Jenkins, one that stands out to me. I feel like we saw that every year for the last 5 years, and there's nothing wrong with it. A good fight between two good fighters, but we have new, fresh matchups like Brendan Loughnane versus Pedro Carvalho. A fight I probably never would have thought of before, but a fight the second I heard it, I was like, oh, I love that fight. Now, a bit biased here because it's a guy training out of Ireland against a guy training out of Manchester, who I've covered both of their careers for a long time. But still, I think a lot of people would be excited for that matchup itself. And there's loads more. We'll get into them on this card as well. And I think that is something that I think that in PFL and Bellator would be very, very, very wary about preserving over the next while. You could do this for 3-4 years where it's all very new matchups, where you have a lot of freshness in the product, because you move, let's say AJ McKee is not in it this year, maybe he'll be in it next year, maybe he wouldn't be in it the year after, he'll be in it the year after, and it's fresh matchups that go from Bellator to PFL to Bellator to PFL, possibly, if the Bellator product and the product in PFL is kept the way it is over the next few years. I suppose that all remains to be seen, but I think they have something there if they're able to do it right and able to promote it right and able to organize it right. And you know, I there's nothing to say they can't, because these first three events have very much been that. But as I said, this is probably the standout one in terms of on paper anyway. Interesting as well. I saw a tweet from Aaron Bronstetter, I think it was after the first event, and he was talking about how, you know, there was a lot of people talking about PFL, and then when the card came on, there was very, very few people. There was a lot of people talking about it when the merger happened, and you know, it's important and big for us, and then maybe not a lot of people talking about it when the card itself was actually on. And I thought the same thing, but that happens an awful lot, and I'm not sure what the reason is, because I know people, like, there are a lot of people watching and the people covering the sport and everything like that, but I don't know, it feels like sometimes I think there's a little bit of, we haven't really watched it before, let's just wait till we know a little bit about it and then start tweeting, you know, because it's very easy to tell, because look, I've been covering it for the last, coming up on 3 years now for Sherdog, and you know, I know all of these fighters very intimately, considering I covered both Bellator and PFL, and as we'll see in a minute, one championship as well. So maybe everyone doesn't have that knowledge base. Now, I wouldn't have the knowledge base of the UFC undercard of most of those people, maybe, or of CFFC or things like that. So if I was watching them, maybe I wouldn't be tweeting out and going mad about it as well. But at the same time, you know, PFL is calling itself the co-leader now. They are, you know, the second promotion in the world, and I feel like if we are to be genuine about wanting people to come up against the UFC, I think there is not necessarily support wanted, but people should be looking at it, covering it, talking about it, and it should be a bigger thing than maybe, you know, than just like an offhand talking point to like who can challenge UFC. Like, I love the fights, first of all, and they've put on some good fights and are continuing to put on some good fights, just throwing the elbows as well. But you know, you can't complain about that without a shadow of a doubt so far anyway. So I very much appreciated the point that Aaron made, and hopefully it'll kind of change people and get people talking about it more. And like, I hope maybe my previews will do the same, you know, and bring people to kind of bring people towards the light in terms of these are good fighters, good fights in an organization that has a lot of them now and can put on a lot of good fights. So let's run through the rosters first of all, which is my want for these guys. I don't know, did I do it for the second one? Actually, I forget, but maybe not. Okay, we'll start off with the welterweight division. We have Andrey Koreshkov, Don Madge, Goiti Yamauchi, Kyle Crutchmere, Lorena Strapoli, Logan Storley, Luka Piklot, Magomed Umalatov, Murad Ramazanov, who might be the most exciting fighter on this for me, Neiman Gracie, Shamil Musaev, and Zach Jusola. Then we have in the featherweight division Adam Barrocks, Brendan Loughnane, Brett Johns, Bubba Jenkins, Enrique Barzola, Gabriel Braga, Justin Gonzales, Kai Kamaka, the third, Tyler Diamond, Timur Kizriev, Pedro Carvalho, and Otto Rodriguez. Now, I don't know how, it's hard for me to judge, right, how many of those lads are standout names, but I think this is, the featherweight division especially, is an absolute standout, brilliant division. Like, Barrocks has been, like, just a consistent fighter for a long time, and okay, didn't reach the very top of the mountain, but you look at Loughnane, won the tournament. Brett Johns has been just absolutely dying for an opportunity for the last 3 or 4 years. Bubba Jenkins always thereabouts. Barzola, one of the most fan-friendly fighters there is. Braga went all the way, to last year. Kai Kamaka, again, another guy who I think is on the verge of doing something very special. Pedro Carvalho, another guy like who can hit as hard as anyone in that division, and if he hits you, you'll stay it. And on his best day, he's a very, very good fighter. And we'll get into all the rest of them here in a second. I feel like I'm eating into my my preview here, but I'm really excited about that division and the welterweight division too. The welterweight division has always been the best division in PFL. I feel like maybe someone would disagree with me, but it's looking good again this year without a shadow of a doubt. Right, let's get to some of the fights now. Someone in the comment section last week goes, this. It was about an hour after it was released, and it was released maybe very, very close to when it was actually recorded. And someone said, this is already out of date. The fight has fallen out. Right, that's going to happen in PFL, in Bellator, in the UFC, in Cage Warriors. Fights fall out. So I'm recording this a little bit earlier, even maybe than usual, and maybe one or two of these fights will be different or not happen by the time it comes out. But for the most part, we will have these big fights here. Now, I'm kind of putting the kibosh on this now, but first fight, Andrey Koreshkov versus Magomed Umalatov. What's the betting that doesn't happen next week? But no, I really hope it does, because this is a fascinating fight to me. Umalatov 14-0, 32 years of age now, so now is kind of the time for him to go forward. I think there was obviously he was in the regular seasons for the last few, and obviously did very, very well, beating the likes of Jaral Al-Shalawi and Leandro Silva and Danilo Taylor and Nayeeb Lopez over the last while, after coming over from Eagle FC in 2000 and during the pandemic time around then. And he's just been an absolute killer. Like, he's a really good wrestler, really good in the clinch, has power as well. You see his record: 14 wins, 11 knockouts, 1 submission, only 2 decisions, and 14-0 if I haven't mentioned already. Fighting out at Eagles MMA gym in Russia as well. How much of a beast he is going to be, and he is as much of a beast. But he is one of a lot of the guys in PFL over the last however many years, 4 or 5 years, they have faced a lot of tests. Name any one fighter, they have faced a lot of good tests. It feels like he just hasn't yet. The best fighters he's probably fought are Al-Salawi and Taylor, and he finished both of them in a round. So this automatically is a big step up against Andrey Koreshkov. And you might think, Andrey Koreshkov, that was a guy that was really good a few years ago in Bellator. What's happened? But he's made a real comeback over the last while. Okay, he had not a great 2018, 2019, losing to Douglas Lima and Lorenz Larkin, but he had 2 years off and he came back and he's looked really, really good since. He's won 5 in a row. Beat Lorenz Larkin last time out. Okay, it was a split decision, but he won that one. And he beat Saba Hamasi and others along the way as well. But you look back in the day, he had wins over Douglas Lima, who, he lost to Benson Henderson, Chidi Njokuani, Lyman Good, and many more down through the years. And this is a guy who's been fighting since 2010. So you're talking a 14-year veteran here who's still only 33 years of age, which is kind of mad considering Umalatov is 32, and a guy who's 14 fights into his career versus a guy who's 31 fights into his career. And I've always really, really admired Koreshkov and the way he fights. We all remember back in the day he fought Ben Askren, and remember how that went at that time. That was 11 years ago, and that's not reflective of what he is. But Umalatov will probably be looking at that and go, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to Ben Askren him. I want to take him down. I want to beat him up on the ground and kind of see what he's made of. Now, Koreshkov has, as I said, improved an awful lot since then. He's wrestling and takedown defense is an awful lot better compared to back then. But there's only so much you can do. And there's only so much you can do to get better, but there's only so much you can do when you're fighting a guy like Magomed Umalatov as well, who is an absolute beast of a fighter. It's very much your old school striker versus grappler matchup. Although they can both do a bit of it all. That would be unfair to say that they can't. But I think I think Umalatov will be happy enough to strike with him for a bit. But I think it would be probably be a bit foolish, easy for me to say, to not try to take this fight to the ground, considering how good he is there. And you look at it, you might look at his record and go, okay, he's 11 knockouts, but a lot of them are ground and pound TKOs and things like that. And I think that's a number that might turn into more submissions in the future. But I have a few reservations about this, and I'm very interested to see the betting price of this when it comes out. It isn't out yet at the time of recording here, but I'll have the betting show during the week and we'll talk about it. But I just wonder how much credence they will put in the opponents of Umalatov. Like, as I said, he hasn't fought that level yet. And Koreshkov very much is that level. Will he be able to take the step up? Will he be able to do the same things with kind of the movement and the control Koreshkov has when he's striking? I'm not sure. I'm sure. I don't like making picks, to be honest. I just like talking about the fights, but I'll make a betting pick during the week. As of now, I'm going to. Where am I going to lie? Do you know what? I'm going to go Koreshkov. But that might be wrong. And I'm just looking forward to the fight. Really, really am. The fight I'm definitely most looking forward to on this card is Brendan Loughnane against Pedro Carvalho. I mentioned it earlier on. These two lads have just been stalwarts, I suppose, for both promotions over the last few years. 31 fights into his career now is Brendan Loughnane. And, what a run he's had since he came into the PFL after that. Idiotic Dana White Contender Series decision from Dana White, where he beat Bellator, who's still in the UFC to this day. But Loughnane has had how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fights in that time since 2019, which is an awful lot. And he's 9-2 in that time, only losing to Mavlid and obviously Pinedo last year, which was a big shock at the time. But he won the tournament the year before. He has beaten some really good guys, already aforementioned Chris Wade and Bubba Jenkins. Ruiji Kudo, in one of my favourite fights in PFL in a long time, with Kudo just stood up and there was a technical decision and it was a great fight. And beat Maurice and beat Tyler Diamond, who's in the tournament now as well. So a great run it's been for him. For Carvalho on the other side of it, then 13-8 with 8 finishes in the middle of all of that as well. He hasn't had the greatest run over the last while, but look at the combination he's fighting. He's fighting Aaron Pico, who's arguably the best fighter in the world in the division. Jeremy Kennedy, who just fought for the title, and Piotr Nijelski, which is a very close fight. But he beat Mads Burnell in the middle of that, a fight I was at, a fantastic win. And he beat Daniel Weichel as well. I think he's in this tournament because of what he brings in terms of he's a fun fighter, the power. He's only 2 knockouts in his career, but he definitely carries that power. And I think he is the type of guy as well who will attack a fighter like a Loughnane or whoever it might be, even even the likes of Kennedy and Pico, lads he's lost, and make it tough for them, give them a hard night, and I think he's proven that down through the years. You know, he's taken a couple of early finishes, but look, he's gone to a decision with Nijelski, gone to a decision with Kennedy, into the second round with JJ Wilson and others as well. And this fight especially, I think, is a very interesting one, because I mentioned the Kudo fight for Loughnane, and now Kudo isn't a million miles away from Carvalho, kind of maybe the smaller, faster hitter, let's put it that way. And Loughnane struggled with that a little bit. Like, Loughnane is a very good technical striker, a good jab, strong, well built, always comes in unbelievable shape. But, you know, maybe he's not the fastest in the world. He's better at kind of controlling the fight. And as I said, using that jab and using an array of strikes. He's brilliant. Like, I've so much time for Brendan Loughnane, but a kind of a faster guy with the power can get to him, as he's shown before. I think even in the Pineda fight, that was a little bit of it as well. You know, it was an early finish. He caught him, and he put him out in 100 seconds ish. That's what Carvalho, I think, should be looking to do here as well. He's a fast starter himself. Go at it. Go for Loughnane early. Put the hands on him. Use that speed. Don't let it become a technical matchup. Let it become like a combination exchange. And I think Carvalho, if he does that, he gives himself a real chance here. Now, look, Loughnane is going to be a big favourite, I think, in this one, and rightfully so. But at the same time, this is his first fight back from that loss, and that's big. He as I said, he lost the Moff lead, but he's won 1 million since that, and he was on a 5-fight win streak since that, and he's lost fights in his career back in the day and things. But bouncing back from the biggest loss of your career, which that would have been, is massive. Like, okay, Carvalho is doing the same, but like, he's I suppose he kind of knows the score, and he maybe more used to doing that, and this is maybe an opportunity that he. Like, I think Loughnane knows he would have got this opportunity again. Maybe Carvalho wouldn't in this sort of setting. So I think it's more positives for Carvalho going in here in terms of just the actual match itself, the actual position maybe itself, than Loughnane, whereas Loughnane might be just trying to get on a win and run here maybe. But all in all, that's mostly bluster there. But the fight itself, again, a really good fight. I think Carvalho will be dangerous early. If Loughnane can stop that, I think, you could see him taking maybe the second and third rounds and winning the decision. But I really, really, really like this fight, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. Logan Storley and Shamil Musaev then is the next fight at welterweight. Musaev 14-0 at 30 years of age. Again, a guy who's beaten some good fighters, but maybe hasn't taken that next step to go to the next level. 11 finishes, 3 decisions. Actually, there's a draw in there as well, so he's 14-0-1. Coming over, we saw him in KSW. This is, I think he had 4 fights in KSW. This is his first trip over to fight in one of the bigger organizations in the States. There's no doubt about it. The KSW are a big organization as well, and he's going to meet the wrestler in Storley, who beat Brendan Ward last time out, but lost to Amasov before that in that fantastic fight in Dublin, I believe. And he's beaten MVP, and he's beaten Neiman Gracie, beaten Dante Shiro, and I'd love to see where Storley will go. I'd love to see that next level, and if he can, if he can go to that next level, if he can make his striking as much of a weapon as he did with his wrestling. Now that's asking a lot. I absolutely note that, but sometimes you just have to take that game to the next level, or people will take your game apart, and people who maybe you shouldn't be losing. I'm not saying that's the case here with this opponent, but people who you shouldn't be losing to will beat you. I think this is an interesting matchup. Look, both good wrestlers, both well-rounded. You would wonder, will Musaev have a little bit more on the field? Let's see what Storley's hands look like coming into this one. Again, a lot of the maybe the undefeated guys have a little bit more unknowns. And I think that's definitely the case here, but I'm gonna go for Storley. I've always liked him, but he doesn't always show up in the biggest of occasions either. Next fight in the featherweight division, Braga and Gonzales. I think this is kind of a fight that sells itself, to be honest. Two good stand-up fighters who are well able to mix it, are well able to take tough fights as well. Like Gonzales has been in there with Kizriev, Burnell, Fisher, Kai Kamaka, Aaron Pico, and he's beaten Fisher, beaten Kai Kamaka as well. Look at Braga, what he did last year, getting to the finale, beating Pineda, and he'd beaten him earlier on in the year. He beat Marlon Moraes, beat Chris Wade in there as well. A very, very good fighter and a very well-rounded fighter. I think this is, it's funny because Braga was the guy. He's used to this formation. Yeah, go on. We'll call it formation. Whereas Gonzales is coming over from Bellator and he's not used to this. I wonder, will that be a bit of an advantage? And let's see, because it was funny, this kind of the supercard they did, it was a kind of an advantage for Bellator throughout that. I wonder, will the season format be an advantage for the PFL guys? I think it just might be for Braga here. I think he might be a little bit too quick and a little bit more subtle in his strikes, and I think he will win this. Subtlety of strikes is something you might not get too much in the next matchup between Goiti, Yamauchi and Neiman, Gracie. Like, Gracie's probably the most well-rounded of the Gracies at 12-4, 35 years of age now. I think when he lost those two fights to, the aforementioned Yamauchi and Storley, I think maybe a lot of people thought we wouldn't see him again, but here we are. And this is another kind of odd rematch that I'm not sure they're meeting. I remember doing a preview for that and thinking, if Gracie can't take him down, Yamauchi's very good on the ground. Like, Yamauchi has an insane number of submissions, if I remember correctly. 21 submission wins in 28 wins altogether. He's very good on the ground. Obviously, as we know, Gracie is too. But like I remember the whole analysis of that fight is, if this fight stays on the feet, Yamauchi's just going to be way too good for him. And I also think Yamauchi getting on top, which, if my memory serves me correct, he did at one stage, and that he's going to have the advantage there too. And like, this is 2 years further down the line, 35 now instead of 33. Yamauchi's only 31. I think he wins this fight, and honestly a little bit surprised to see Gracie in this tournament. I think there might have been a few others better off being in it, but anyway, I think Yamauchi does get the win in that one. Fascinating matchup I'm looking forward to seeing as well as Bubba Jenkins against Kai Kamaka the third. And here's my prediction for this one. My prediction is it's the time for the new era. 36 years of age now. Bubba Jenkins put on some great performances last year. The win over Chris Wade was very good. I like Sunbin Zhou in that fight they had as well, but he beat him. He beat Kudo the year before. Okay, he lost to Loughnane and Pineda, but he's still a very, very good fighter and can wrestle very well and can strike. Throws that big right hand inside, and absolutely no joke at all. But Kai Kamaka has been on a great run. He's won his last 3 in a row. He lost to Jonathan Edwards, Justin Edwards, who we just spoke about, but he beat John De Jesus as well. That Henry Corrales window, I thought he performed pretty well in that, a relatively close fight. But I just like Kai Kamaka as a fighter, and I like he's maybe not the strong, the biggest knockout artist or the biggest finisher in the world. And it's funny, I look at that there, he's 10 decisions in 12 wins, and how many is it? 15 overall. 10 plus 3, 14 overall, sorry. Fights have gone to decision with 1 draw and 3 decision losses as well. But he's a guy who he sticks in there, and he sticks in a jab and throws his combinations really well, and it's just a tough guy to beat, a tough guy to hit, a tough guy to get the better of, and I think he's improved an awful lot fighting under Eric Nixick now in that gym out in Las Vegas. I'm going to pick Kai Kamaka. I think he might be the underdog here when the betting odds come out, but I do like him. Then we have Adam Barrox against Enrique Berzola. Barrock's one of these guys who's now 30 years of age, and that's kind of crept up on him. Like, he lost to Patricio in 2022, and we haven't seen him since. So this is a year and a half out of the cage, and like, what a run he was on before that, beating Mike Hamill, Sanchez, Jeremy Kennedy, and Mads Burnell, flying knee lads all over the place. Before that, obviously knocked out Aaron Pico, as we all know, and didn't he have 3 flying knees in 4 fights or something like that? And I really thought he had a good chance against Patricio. Now he didn't show up to that fight really, and he comes back here against Barzola, a guy who is maybe one of my favorite fighters to cover over the last few years. Just so exciting, fights with the likes of Darian Caldwell when he finished him. Been in there, even in the UFC, he fought Evloev and a few more. And he's fought Magomedov. He's fought Archuleta, won his last two against Eric Perez and Bates. And I remember I picked him against Nikita Mikhailov, and a lot of people weren't picking him in that fight, but he did so well to win it. A very interesting one. I think if Baruch shows up and he's as good as he ever was, I think he'll win it. But if he isn't as good as he was or hasn't improved, I think Barzola absolutely has the ability to win that fight. But I'm going to pick Baruch in that one. Love this fight versus Timur Khizriev and Brett Johns. Now, this might not be a fight at night, or might not be one that the crowd might enjoy, but this is going to be an absolute battle. Like Khizriev, again, like we talk about a lot of decisions, he's 71% of his fights have gone to a decision. A lot for Brett Johns as well. 13 of his 23 fights have gone to a decision, and this is going to be a pull-out, drag-em war. I think there's going to be a lot of grappling, maybe against the cage here, and a lot of I wonder will someone get the better of that, because we've seen Brett Johns. I've seen him fighting in Dublin a few times, and a lot of it is him getting on top, getting the advantage on the ground. But against Khizriev, that's going to be very, very hard to do, Obviously, he fought Richie Smullen. I was at that fight, and I believe I was anyway. Was I? Maybe I some kind of times I conflate him, but I definitely seen him live once anyway. And you have that memory of kind of him just being a little bit better in every area when he fights. He's beating Justin Gonzales as well, Daniel Weichel. There's no mugs there who he's not beaten, and this is a massive test for Brett Johns, and he's been looking for a massive test. He lost to Danny Sabatello, and I think maybe that will be the fight that Khizriev looks at there and goes, look, can I replicate what happened there? I think if you stop Brett Johns from getting on top of you and you can take him down, I think you're a long way to getting the better of that fight in, and I think maybe that's just what will happen here in that one. Murad Ramazanov, this is the guy I'm most excited about. He is an absolute beast. If you're a PFL fan, Bellator fan, you haven't heard of this guy. He's coming over from one championship. His last fight was a no contest with an accidental groin strike against Roberto Saldec. But he beat Sebastian Kadistan before that, who went on, if I'm not mistaken, to beat Saldec in the next fight. Indeed he did. And he's an absolute beast, Kadistan, before that he'd beaten since that he's beaten Yuri Lapalus and Valmir Silva, who are two absolute beasts as well. But this guy, Ramazanov, is just, he has it all. He can hit hard. He has very good submissions, very good on the ground, an absolute beast of a fighter. And I feel a little bit sorry for poor old Laureano Strappoli coming over from Argentina for this one. He's been in there with some good guys as well. Obviously, we saw him in the UFC, and he went, he won a couple of fights within the last four in a row and was out of it. But I don't think he's ever faced, maybe Roman Delidze, but and Salikov as well, good fighters, but lost to both of them. Was over in Aries, had some good wins. Leonardo Damani, he's a good fighter, and Mikhail Labut, but this is another level again, and I think Ramazanov is going to be a big favorite here, and I think Ramazanov underdog pick for the tournament. Maybe he's not an underdog. Maybe me calling him an underdog is wrong, but I think he could very well win that tournament. Very well could. Don Madge and Brennan Ward also in it. I'm not so sure they can win the tournament, to be honest. I love a bit of Brendan Ward. He goes out and he throws down. He's had a good run, lost to Logan Storley. Okay, I don't think that fight should have ever been made, to be honest, but won 3 in a row after his comeback before that. Don Madge, the Magic Man, a lot of finishes in his career, 9 finishes out of 10 wins. Lost to Hausman Feo in 2022. He's been out for a couple of years now. He was out for a couple of years before the fight before that as well, after coming over in the UFC. So it'll be interesting to see what Dan Madge looks like. And at his best, he can be very good, but I think that will be a good fight, and I'll probably pick Dan Madge to win it there. Zach Jusola, don't know a whole lot about him, to be honest, but I know Luka Piklot, who's been fighting out of my own home country here, and he got a Bravo choke in his ass. What did they call it? The Loughnane? Is that what they were calling it? But he beat Roman Feraldo, who was on a great run previously before that, beat Oliver Imkamp as well. So this guy is very, 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 very good fighter. His only loss is Marbek Taisimov in his first ever fight. So he's won his last 10 in a row, 7 of them inside the distance. The Juice is his opponent, and recorded this on the day O.J. Simpson died, which is not a comparison I'm sure he would like, but this is his third opportunity in the PFL. He's won both of his fights before that, beating Joseph Winter and Brandon Jenkins as well. And a guy with a lot of finishes again, and four knockouts and 5 submissions. Maybe again not the, how would you put it? Not the most aesthetically obvious good fighter. And again, a guy who's kind of turned his career around in the last while, had a lot of losses. Once lost 6 out of 7 fights in his career up until 2022. So this is a huge opportunity for him. A guy who started off his career very well and has gotten it back a little bit. Tough fight against Luka Piklot. I think Piklot will win this one, but very, very interesting to see what Zach looks like there. There's 3 more fights on the card. At the moment, Jordan Oliver and Romain Debena don't have opponents yet. So the last fight I'm going to touch on here is Tyler Diamond versus Otto Rodriguez. I mentioned Tyler Diamond earlier on. He fought Brendan Loughnane, and he lost that fight, but it's only one of 3 losses in his 15-fight career. The others to Mavleed and Bryce Mitchell in the UFC as well. He's won and only opportunity in the UFC, obviously in the tough finale there. But, he's beaten Sunboy Binjo, who I mentioned earlier on. I think is a good fighter. But this is, the first big test for him in terms of can he win against a top name. And now maybe Otto Rodriguez to some people is not a top name, but he's 36 years of age, 14-1. He fought Brian Moore in his last fight, and it was one of those fights, and Brian Moore is Irish, so I watched it a little bit closer, and I was like, why are they doing this to poor old Brian Moore? Jesus, a very tough fight. This Otto Rodriguez is a beast for the weight class. Really good on the ground, unbelievable submissions. 7 submission wins in his 14-fight career. Never got a knockout, but he does hit hard as well. There's no doubt about that. I wonder here how. So Tyler Diamond, a very good wrestler, loves the fight on the ground. But you look at the 2 fights he lost. He lost to Mavleed, who obviously beat him on the ground and choked him out, and he lost to Loughnane, who kept the fight standing and beat him there. I think he might have trouble with the power of Rodriguez. Again, Rodriguez has never won by knockout, but maybe that's how we win money betting here, because he can win by knockout. But also Rodriguez is so tricky on the ground and very good with those submissions. Very hard to take down, an absolute block of a man as well. So I'd be interested to see again the betting odds there. I think I'm going to lean Otto Rodriguez in that one. I really think he's a very, very, very good fighter, and I look forward to seeing how that fight goes. So yeah, that's the top and tail of that card. Really looking forward to it. There's a lot of very, very, very good talent there, and we'll see a £1 million winner on this card at some stage later on in the year as well. So that's that. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.